Hello there, it is Nick Zangle, and we've made it to episode 17 of season 11 of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills recap and react on this Friday. Now, this episode is titled A Tale of Two Accidents, and I had a lot going on. Not gonna lie. Hold on, let me move my thing up so I can see. Okay, perfect. And the first part was really the bombshell dropped by Erika, triggering more questions about what is really true with her life. Then we got to Garcelle being put on in the hot seat again over her feelings towards the group, which aired out in the media. And of course, Dorit's bridal launch for the girls amid a rare LA rainstorm. So with that said, let's jump right in and I'll get to your chats in a few seconds. So let's start with the invites to Dorit's launch party going out to each girl's door. And with that, you see here, it was actually PK's friend delivering roses and the invitations to the girls and their doors. We also had Dorit planning her launch event amid a seemingly rare LA rainstorm. And I actually wanted to start with my reaction to this scene, which is that my thoughts on LA rainstorms in general, as someone from the general area of Los Angeles / OC area, Southern California, which is that it does seem to rain every time you watch either a show or something in Los Angeles, either a reality show or like an award show or something. You always see like they're putting up a tarp or they have to plan another thing. And it is funny. And I'm guessing the reason is because a lot of the productions happen to be during the rainy season, if not, if you will. But it's also funny because I relate to Dorit on this too from a personal level, because many times growing up, we would be hosting the whole family for a certain holiday, either like Thanksgiving or Christmas or a Super Bowl or something like that, or Easter. And it would happen to be the time we always hosted, it would rain. So when Dorit's kind of complaining about it only raining when you're having a big event that needs to be outside, I certainly empathize with her on that. And it's just kind of a minor inconvenience out of all things. But we moved on to Lisa and Kyle at Kathy's, with Kathy's interesting communications with her dogs, which we've seen a few times this season, and Erika arriving for the spa day, where Kathy in her confessional makes a point to say it is a smaller group that Erika may be more comfortable with. I'll give my thoughts on that in a second, why she may have said that. But Lisa Rinna then jokes about the mask treatment muzzling her, and although she seems to be self-aware on this issue, it also appears that she doesn't really want to or care to change, and I will share my thoughts on that as well in a second. But this is where Erika says to Kyle that she does not, or she won't work things out, her issues through with Sutton, and then drops a bombshell on Kyle as Lisa and Kathy are over on the other side getting their facial treatments, that Tom's house was broken into recently. He confronted the burglar, had to get eye surgery as a result because he has glaucoma, and she said that the stress and anxiety of the confrontation flared it up or did something to it where he had to get something removed or treated. And then her son, who Erika sent to Tom's house to check on him, as he was leaving back to his place where I guess he lives up where it snows, had rolled his car 5 times after checking up on Tom. Now, Kyle in her confessional, although with Erika, is saying, wow, oh my God, is everyone okay kind of thing? In her confessional, she points out the pattern of Erika hanging out with the girls, then confessing to things she's going through after the fact, and how this instance right here also adds to that pattern. And Kyle also says that the story Erika told sounds unbelievable, but she is not saying that she doesn't believe her either. Now, this scene ends with the group laughing about the face masks and Kyle and Erika over here not telling Kathy or Lisa about the exchange of new info that just happened. So I'm going to give my reactions to this scene, and then I'll get to your live chats in a second. Make sure everyone's here is doing well. So my thought on this, Erika's comfort in the small group, as pointed out by Kathy, I think is because this is the group that is on her side to her face. When Garcelle is talking about how she seems to think there's a divide in the group, this is the group that Garcelle is pointing out as the other side, if you will, quote unquote. Now, Erika also seemed kind of weird when telling the story. Like, she wasn't looking at Kyle. She was doing this very monotone, like planned out, run through the list of things and get it over with, similar to how she explained the first car accident in La Quinta to the girls at the table, sans Garcelle. Now, something about her sending her law enforcement son to her now exes to check up on him doesn't really make sense, considering that is her biological son and her and Tom are getting divorced and they're both involved in legal things where Erika is putting on the front that she is not supposed to be talking to Tom. So this story where she got all this information very quickly from him seems pretty interesting and is questioning how she got that, which will come up later. But on the other side of things, Erika being squirmy about it and kind of being uncomfortable when she's talking about this story doesn't necessarily mean that she's guilty or that she's lying, because it just could mean, and I know for certain, I think of this too, is this is her natural reaction to talking about uncomfortable stories and situations. And I know personally, when I'm talking about uncomfortable things in real life with someone that I'm kind of nervous to talk about, I can have some of these weird like things that I'm not really conscious of unless I see it later, like on camera or something, which is why this thing is interesting. Or this YouTube channel is interesting because you get to see kind of your quirks in front of you. But I was thinking, is she uncomfortable talking about this because her son was involved and it's still a fresh story and she's kind of just trying not to deal with this now because she has so much going on? Or is it because Tom's involved and she's not really supposed to know, so she's kind of just saying it as if it's not affecting her, or she doesn't have any feelings towards Tom still, or a little bit of both? I don't know. I'll have a few more thoughts and then I'll get to your live chats. But as far as the 24 karat gold masks and the like that they were using in their spa treatment, seems like a rich person thing to do. That may support my theory of if you're not ugly, or the theory that people put out there saying you're not ugly, you're just poor, in reference to people who are rich who can afford to like get veneers on their teeth or get these high-end treatments that work. But on the other side of that, it could mean these things actually don't work and it's just a way to trick people, or a gimmick to trick rich people into spending money. And the actual things that work are when they're telling her to like relax and think of something positive and go to a calming place. And your third eye, quote unquote, is really just techniques to like calm yourself, like breathing and meditation or whatever. So anyways, those are my thoughts, but let's see what you all have to say. So Nastia is here. Thank you so much. I know I had to delay this by one day, but this time though, I have all the timestamp information already ready. I just have to put the times in and it'll all be ready, because that seems to be something I always delay after filming, because once I'm done with the live stream, I want to like move on to the next one, but I have to do a few things, but it's all ready now. All right, Nastia says, the Pasadena Police Department said they never called Erika today. Interesting. Thank you for that information. So does that mean that Erika found out about this through Tom's lawyer or Tom or someone, and that she called, and that confirms that she told her son to check on him? Is that what you're saying? Because I don't remember if her son works for LAPD or that's part of Pasadena, or if he just went on his own or on his way home or something. I don't know. That's interesting. Let me know if you have any more details of that, Nastia, in the live chat. But I guess with that said, we'll just move on to the next part. So next we see Garcelle meeting with her dating coach we met earlier in the season for a little catch up. Garcelle is setting up her Bumble account and zooming with a matchmaker who is setting her up with someone, as Garcelle is sharing the traits she looks for in a man in her confessional. Now in this scene at the end, she kind of makes a joke saying, seeing the guy that she's going to be set up with shirtless and going, whoa, like kind of flustered and hot. And she says, well, maybe Dorit can make my wedding dress. With that said, I wanted to react to that comment, which is, I thought it was actually a funny comment about Dorit, and it must mean at this point, which later on we'll see it might change, their problems, meaning Garcelle and Dorit's, aren't that bad and they can probably get through this. But leave your thoughts on this Garcelle dating adventure in the comment section, which I'll read in a moment. But I also like seeing this process of Garcelle getting back into the dating game and being honest about it and saying, this is what I want, this is what I expect, but this is what I'm scared of and whatnot, because I'm sure there are many women and men, to be honest, who can relate to this process of post-divorce, in middle-aged, if you will, has grown kids already and is trying to find someone to complete them, if you will, or have that other half. So I want to hear your thoughts on that in a second as you saw that. But give me 1 second. I'm going to take a quick sip of water and then we'll continue on. All right, we're back. Let me get my thing up. Okay, so now we are at Kyle's. or sorry, we're now Kyle and Crystal, where we see and hear updates on Crystal's finishing of her basement, which is supposed to be a bar, a movie room, a golf simulator needing to lower the ground level to adjust for her husband's swing, wine cellar, full kitchen, high-end game room is what she's calling it, which is around 1,800 square feet. That's just the basement, mind you. And she said the cost went from $1 million down to $500,000 after a compromise because she was sharing her definition of being frugal in contrast to her husband, which, according to Crystal, her definition of frugal is buying or splurging on things that are going to appreciate in value. And she thinks, like the handbag we saw a few episodes back, and then investing in updating your house, which will appreciate in value. She said those are things. So they compromised on this, but Crystal and Kyle are then catching up over what happened at the end of the night of Garcelle's party, which we saw at the end of last week's episode. And especially the comments from Garcelle on her feeling like an outsider, bringing this up again in the group, where Crystal is actually speculating on why that may be. Now, in Crystal's opinion, she thinks Garcelle is more guarded because she may have a past of being hurt by friends, or maybe still not over her issues with the other girls, prompting her to take more time to open up and is still a little distant because of that. Now, Crystal also thinks Garcelle doesn't have a lot of friends, but the ones she does have are her best friends. Now, what I want to say to this is, I think Crystal is touching on something that I was sort of saying a few weeks back, where it appears Garcelle is hesitant to open up about what she's thinking, appearing to lengthen the recovery time between her and her problems with Kyle or Lisa Rinna, and is now causing the other girls to speculate on why that is and why she is feeling like an outsider. And I also think Crystal may be actually right in this, but also we know Garcelle's the only one who's in Garcelle's head, so we don't know for sure. But that's also the problem I brought up earlier, which is if Garcelle is not saying what she's thinking, then it's forcing people to kind of speculate when all these things are coming out, kind of not very, kind of passive aggressive, but also not fully formed thoughts, or they're coming out in other ways because she's frustrated on these things that she's not sharing. Anyways, and I also want to say, if it is true what Crystal is saying in regards to Garcelle and her friendships, then I can kind of relate to Garcelle on that level. And I think it's also just a human thing. If you've been hurt in the past on a certain situation, if you're going into that situation again with different people, you're probably going to have your guards up. So I don't think it's any fault to Garcelle. I just think it's something that she clearly is struggling with and maybe is going to work through very soon, and hopefully will be for the best for her, and could explain a lot of other things we've dealt with Garcelle in this season. One more thing is, I don't know if Crystal meant this, but I don't think it is a bad thing, or if there's anything wrong with having a small group or small circle of really close friends. I don't see anything wrong with that. But anyways, let's get to your chat, see what everyone is saying, see if anyone has any thoughts on this. Looks like everyone's still thinking, and maybe we'll share in a second, which I will get to. If you're still kind of pondering or typing, I will get to them in a second, but let's keep going. So now we are at Kyle and Mauricio's. They are hosting PK and Dorit for dinner at Kyle's house. And Kyle and Dorit are talking in the kitchen as Kyle is prepping dinner. And Dorit is here with that shocked face by what Kyle is sharing with her about what Erika told her at the spa party at Kathy's, which we saw earlier in the episode. And I think most of the girls, when they hear this story, will probably react this way. Just a guess. But Dorit then is at the table filling in the men. So Dorit is filling in PK and Mauricio at the table on what Kyle just told her. And PK and Mauricio are kind of having the same reaction. And then many questions come out. And because this is so kind of unbelievable what was being told. And PK brings up the previous story of the car accident, making this one even more suspect as well. And apparently in this, Mauricio has not been filled in on what either of these stories, because he seems to be finding out this information as well, and this is his face, he's kind of shocked, like, why didn't I hear this before? So I don't know what that's all about. But PK is then saying it may be Erika has been in a controlling marriage for 20 years and is still being controlled, and Mauricio is now questioning things alongside PK about Erika saying she didn't want doctors to operate on Tom back when he had his first accident. And how could that be if your loved one is saying, if your doctor is saying your loved one needs to be operated on, why would you say no? And so they're also wondering, how did Erika find out about this? And Kyle says now she is questioning herself too, because she's still been on the fence about this and about questioning what Erika has been saying. And so her seeing PK, Mauricio, and Dorit really react to this news that she only had up until a few minutes ago is kind of increasing her doubts in her head. PK also brings up again the Instagram posts that he was sharing concerns about with Dorit last episode. And Mauricio and Kyle agree with him about it not being a good look, as PK probably has the most experience out of this, who was a manager of a celebrity, Boy George, who's part of Culture Club, and other people as well. And this not being a good look, and how he would not advise his clients or his managed people or whatever to be posting like that. So Dorit then finally brings up, which this part of the scene I think was pretty funny, brings up another funny but not really funny part of Erika's story, which is because it's so ridiculous and twisted and confusing that you can't help but laugh, but about the doctors wanting to operate on his brain instead of his ankle, when it was his ankle that was hurt, or one or the other. And it was a belly laugh moment. I'll be honest, I'll get into my reaction right now. This scene ended with the belly laugh for me as well, because it was just so ridiculous. And it's just one of those moments where in life, things just keep coming at you and you just sit there and you're like, this can't be real. This has to be a joke kind of situation. I think that's what they were getting at here. And of course, I think this will be probably spun by Erika as like them making fun of her or whatnot, but we'll see. And I did see a picture of the reunion, and they did film it, and Erika was there and Kathy was there and the whole cast. So we're going to see how interesting that is. But at least I think Dorit and Kyle are retelling the stories that they have to their spouses correctly, minus, I think Dorit said 6 car flips of the sun instead of 5. Unlike the Lake Tahoe event earlier in the season, where the game of telephone at the table just took a weird turn with Dorit and just blew up this whole situation to make it worse. But I appreciate also the men's honesty in this. And clearly, like I said in the past episodes, these two have respectable marriages, because they all seem to be honest and open with each other at this table and taking each other's opinions seriously and their concerns seriously. So I think that was nice to see. And clearly they're two couples that have respect for each other as well. So let's get to the chat. I see some flowing in here. All right. Nastia says, Garcelle is scared after what happened to Denise. That was her introduction to this group. Not good. PK and Marisa are awesome. Yeah. I think I like when the husbands get involved, because it adds a different dynamic. And I think some of the best seasons of any Housewives are when the drama involves the husbands. Like I think Potomac last season, the husbands were a lot involved. And I think Atlanta at some point. I don't think New York they really are, but Orange County, there used to be some. But I think those are kind of the best seasons because they're housewives. So their husbands are a big part of their lives. And when they're involved, I think it's interesting. But what you said about Garcelle, Nastia, yeah. I don't blame Garcelle, especially also when her introduction to the group was through Lisa Rinna, if I'm not mistaken. And now her and Lisa Rinna, like I said before, they fell out last season, and now they're repairing their friendship. So I don't blame Garcelle for being an outsider, or for feeling like she's an outsider, but I'll touch on my thoughts later of how she can kind of mend that and fix that and not just blame everyone else and hope everyone else fixes it for her. But we'll get into that in a second. Let's keep going. All right. So we are now all getting ready via FaceTime again. I know I keep harping on this, but it's like every episode we see one of these, because I guess they have like a party or dinner party every episode at this point, or some kind of event. And this is they're all getting ready for Dorit's bridal line launch at her house in a smaller setting, because Dorit says she wants to be mindful of the state of the world. We also get Erika on her way FaceTiming Kyle and saying that she is happy and feeling good. So it seems like she's okay right now, considering some of the traumatic events that allegedly happened in her life recently. So she seems to be kind of packing everything away, like she said, emotionally to deal with later. We also see Sutton on her way with her boyfriend, Michael, who we have not seen in a while, stating she is nervous to see everyone after the last group event, which is understandable. And also we have Erika arriving with this interesting hair piece. It's like a ring hooking fake hair to her real hair, leaving a space in between. And Erika and Sutton seem cordial as Sutton arrives and stands next to Erika. And then we have Lisa Rinna in a dress that she cannot walk in. She has to take it slow up the stairs, which is something I'm going to talk about right now. So interesting fashions again. But Lisa can't walk up the stairs, which I don't understand why people wear stuff that they can't function in. Maybe that's the point, because I'm not someone who wants to wear something non-functional. Maybe that's just I'm not the demographic for that, but I don't understand. Maybe pain is beauty is a thing. I don't know. But as far as Erika's outfits go, she always pushes the envelope with her fashions, but this makes me wonder how bad she is actually doing after leaving Tom, because I haven't really noticed much of a difference in her looks since leaving Tom. So let me know what you think of that. But I also know she still has her own thing going with sponsorships on social media and other things, but something still doesn't add up with that. Anyways, I was expecting her to be in like sweatpants and no makeup the whole season, but I guess that was wishful thinking. All right, let's move on. I will get to your live chats at the end of this whole thing, but let's go to now Dorit doing her grand reveal with the models behind the glass in her backyard. But they all came out one by one, and she kind of explained each look from a distance. Dorit's daughter, Phoenix, was modeling the flower girl dress, which everyone was oohing and awing over, and everyone was wowed with the line as well, where Lisa Rinna in her confessional, of course, had to take this opportunity to take a dig at Dorit and her previous Beverly Beach line, and saying this was a step up from there. I'm sure she'll try to say, oh, she didn't mean anything by that, but it's Lisa Rinna. And then girls in their confessionals were all sharing about their wedding experiences, how much their dresses were, and what kind of dress they wore. And then the producers actually posed questions to all the girls in their confessionals of would they get married again. Most of them said no, or that they would not renew their vows. We had a whole conversation on renewing vows, I think last episode or the one before that, so you can go back and listen to my thoughts on that if you would like. But let me know what you think of this compared to other Dorit events that we've seen on the show and launches. But I'm going to keep going. So we are now at the table eating dinner. And PK is joking with Kyle about their dinner recently, where they had some jokes about Erika and if they should share it at the table. Of course, he was kind of joking, but clearly they're on their own side of the table and no one else can hear them. But then Harry Hamlin arrives and sits next to Erika and greets her kindly and cordially while revealing he is playing Tom Brokaw in a new role. At the end of the dinner, the men and women separate. The boys talk business outside by the pool. The girls are inside, then making some jokes about the pic of Bernie Sanders at President Biden's inauguration, getting everyone up in arms online with the meme, which kind of gives us an indication of when this took place in late January, which Kathy thought, this is very Kathy, was the new elf on the shelf or Colonel Sanders. And I'm like, that was so Kathy. It's like, I'd never even thought of that, but it's pretty funny. Anyways, this gives then Kyle an in to... or Kyle a chance to call out Garcelle's comments, getting people up in arms on Ellen about her saying all the mean girls are coming after her in response to a question on the guest host of Ellen that day, Mario Lopez, about how filming was going that season with the girls. And Dorit and Garcelle then are able to rehash things where Garcelle thinks she is being upfront with Dorit, but Dorit thinks Garcelle isn't being upfront with her. So there's a miscommunication still between them. Earlier in the episode, we thought they were on good terms with Garcelle's comment, but I guess not. But then Dorit says, I speak 4 languages, and in none of them does what you're saying make sense. Garcelle then brings up how Sutton is the only one having her back in these situations. And Lisa and Erika are watching on from the side at the main table, where it appears Lisa is actually on Dorit's side, and Dorit then says she doesn't think Garcelle is an outsider, to which Garcelle notices in her confessional that Lisa was not standing up for her in this instance. But Lisa in her confessional says in this situation she doesn't think there is an injustice going on, and that Lisa thinks that Garcelle is just upset she is getting called out finally by someone like Dorit. Again, Garcelle and Dorit say they will be more direct with each other to avoid this going forward as the episode ends, but like Garcelle had said at the end, we'll see if Dorit can actually handle the truth. And my thoughts on this whole scene, with the whole party and everything, is I thought it was actually a well-done event, and I think the girls' reactions proved that. I also think we need to see more of what we saw with Mauricio and PK, like Nastia said in the comments, with their wives together, because although it is a dark storyline, they seem to make it palatable by kind of seeing the light part of it. But as far as Garcelle and her issues with the group goes, I understand why she may feel like an outsider, like I said earlier, and don't discount her feelings because obviously it's her experience. But just because she is interpreting things one way doesn't mean the girls intended that way or that she is actually an outsider. And this kind of goes back to what I've been saying this season on self-fulfilling prophecies and staying in a victim mindset and not taking initiative to change your mindset and blame everyone else and make them change to appease you rather than seeing your perceived forced mindset as the problem and realizing that you can change that and escape this kind of mental prison that you feel like you're in. Also because the people who benefit from you feeling like you can't think any other way don't want you to know that you have the power to control your thoughts or encourage you to do that, because once you know that you have that power, they're not powerful anymore. So to me, the best thing I think for Garcelle or anyone can do to combat this kind of power structure that she's kind of going up against is controlling your thoughts to break away mentally and regain the power over your thoughts. So we'll see next week. I think we'll revisit this next week because it seems like the preview showed she's going to break down in their trip to, I think it's San Diego, the Del Mar area, and she's going to break down in front of the group saying she has always had to try to fit in. With that said, let's get to the live chats. All right. Nastia says, Erika was nicer to Sutton than I ever thought possible. Yeah, that's what's so funny about this. It appears that Lisa Rinna lip thing was only a few days before from what they were saying in the episode. So I thought that was interesting. Maybe Erika just needed to kind of get that off her chest or actually the Kathy thing was probably even closer to that, only a few days. It feels maybe she just needed to sleep on it, or she was just building up something and she needed to get it out. I am not sure. There must be something else to the story that we didn't see. But I guess they had Garcelle's dinner too before or after that last blow up. So we'll see. All right. Nastia also says, I'm not sure what Dorit wants Garcelle to be honest about. She keeps saying be honest about, but about what? Clearly Garcelle has no clue what she's on about. I think things would be resolved if Dorit said directly, I want you to be honest about X, Y, and Z. Yeah, and I think maybe with Dorit, it's more not necessarily what Garcelle is saying. Maybe Dorit doesn't like the tone that Garcelle is saying things in general, and just interpreting that as, like I said earlier, maybe Garcelle hiding, or she's interpreting that as Garcelle has other problems with her and isn't saying it directly, and is the tone of whatever she is saying is making her think that. But I think at this point, Dorit needs to drop it because Garcelle is telling her, I've told you what I'm thinking. And she said, I do feel like an outsider to her face. She has told her she talks too much. She has talked about the race thing, about helping her house. So at this point, I think Dorit just kind of needs to drop it. At this point, I think. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But as you're leaving other thoughts in the comment section, I want to thank you all for joining and remind you that if you would like to join the free email list where you get notifications of the new episodes coming out, where you get links to the live chat and the replays, make sure to head to the description of this episode or the about section of the channel and follow the directions on there to make sure it's done correctly. And if you're not getting them, then make sure to check it. But also make sure to give this episode a thumbs up or a rating or a rumble, wherever you are, if you liked what you've seen so far. And if you want to be, make sure if you want to be subscribed, that the subscribe button on YouTube says subscribed. Now, if it already says subscribe, you don't need to click it again. But make sure if you want to do that again, because I know that's a thing where people keep hitting subscribe and it unsubscribes them because you already hit subscribe. But anyways, and make sure to continue the conversation wherever you are able to comment as we wrap up the live stream. But let's see what everyone's saying. Nastia says, to me, Kyle makes more jabs at Dorit than Garcelle. But maybe because Kyle is closer to her, she doesn't mind it. Yeah, and I think that's a good point. And supports actually Garcelle's theory about her feeling like an outsider because she is a newer friend, and maybe there is a different standard of, or different level of what constitutes a problem with Dorit and Kyle versus Dorit and Garcelle, or Dorit and Crystal. And I think the same thing goes for Crystal and Sutton, and kind of what we talked about earlier in the season, where just the newness of the friendship. It's just one of those hurdles that you have when you first meet people. And of course, they're in a situation that most of us don't deal with, which is being on a reality show with cameras where you're kind of forced to get to know people very quickly. So that is part of it as well. But of course, we are supposed to believe as viewers this is real. So we don't want to believe it's a show. But now in the world of reality TV, viewers are savvy like us. And we need to be acknowledged. There needs to be an acknowledgement that it's a show and that there's cameras there. So anyways, looks like everything's good in the chat. Thank you for being here, everyone. Nastia, thank you for being in the live chat as always. You're always here and I love it. And so I can't wait for more of you to be here as we go forward. This season will wrap up and then we'll have some updates here and there between seasons since this is one of the main things on the channel. And then I am planning on when Real Housewives of Orange County comes back, which I know they're filming, so it's happening. I want to do this similar thing. And at the end of the season of Beverly Hills, I'm going to do a video where I kind of wrap up the whole season, my thoughts just in general and what I want to expect for next season, kind of what's going to happen. And also talk about some tweaks to the format of these, because this is the first season we've done it. And I want to make sure we improve a little bit or kind of hone in on things. And you probably noticed this episode was a little more, in the last few was a little better and the timestamps look better and just kind of the little housekeeping things or little details that we can hone in on to make it more viewable and watchable, listenable for you and just make it better all around since these are weekly and a longer series. So let's see. What else are we saying? Nastia says, honestly, I think it's because, okay, we're back. Because Garcelle brought concerns about the race of her staff is why Dorit really is like. I actually had a similar thought that it seems like you're right, Nastia. After that dinner where the race conversation came up and Garcelle asked that question to Dorit about the race thing and Dorit kind of was caught off guard. I think you're right. There was a switch in Dorit kind of being indifferent towards Garcelle to kind of trying to get back at her for that, which I don't blame. I don't blame Dorit for being mad. I think if I was being accused of being racist or racially insensitive by someone who's supposed to be my friend or in the friend group, I think it would change something about them, especially when Dorit kind of said that Garcelle had been to her house before and seen and she knows the answer to that. It did seem like maybe Dorit took that personally, which I don't blame her. Nasty also says that's why she said you did this to Kyle and now me. Yeah, it could be, yeah, about the race thing. I honestly think the other girls think an argument with Garcelle will end in them being called racist. The other girls think it can't be a fair fight. I see that point too. And that's why I don't fault Dorit for sticking up for herself, because maybe she is speaking for a lot of what others are thinking and she's kind of being the Sutton in this situation, which is kind of confronting Garcelle for issues that other girls have with her. And I think personally, it's if you're losing a fight and then you throw out the race thing just so you can win, because it's still in society an easy way to win, even though I think throwing that out there more where it doesn't fit is actually making the word lose its meaning. But you know my thoughts on that already. I do think that's a fair point, Nastia, that the other girls could be scared of Garcelle because of that reason. And but I think if you know you're not racist, then you have one of two reactions. One is you deny it, like you don't have a problem denying it, and you also don't let it bother you that much. So I don't know. Either one seems to me like a fair response to that, but yeah, Nastia says Dorit is not saying that directly, that's the reason she's mad or that's the problem here. And it looks like she's nitpicking herself. Yeah, I think Dorit, if that's what she's truly thinking, and that theory we have, which is the same thing I had said about Garcelle, which is say what you really mean, I think Dorit we would get through the problem quicker, and actually might be a good thing for the show and for the group to air that out and have that conversation. So we'll see what happens. I'm curious to know if it comes up in the next few weeks or at the reunion. With that said, I think everyone's gotten their thoughts out. I'll give a few more seconds as I take a sip of water if you have any more thoughts, and we will go through them. All right, it looks like everyone is good. And with that said, if you have any more that don't get read in the live chat, you can go to the main comment section of YouTube, Rumble, or wherever you can comment and leave one there. We can continue the conversation back and forth. Yes, have a good night too as well, Nastia and everybody. Thank you for joining me on this Friday, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.